question that I have is, how do I reconcile the things that I don't really accept or believe in? In other words, there are days when I believe in God and a creator, and there are days when I absolutely don't.
Yeah.
And it's like constant arguments going off in my head.
Yes.
To the point where my head hurts because I argue with myself every day over spiritual things.
Right. This is a very important question. Fundamental question. Should I believe in God or not believe in God? I said, don't believe in God. Believe into something else. Okay. This is exactly Advaita Vedanta. Just highest kind of Vedanta I'm talking about. Okay. Who is questioning whether God exists or not? Who is questioning?
I am.
I am. Who are you? This is the search. No, this is the search that is called Gnana Yoga. And the search, as I explained, okay, like my body functions and my senses see. Who is seeing? What is running the body? What is the power? The power that runs my body, the power that allows my senses to see. Where is that power? I said, well, because of the mind, right? Okay, but mind again is inert. Mind is nothing but thoughts. So there is something to recognize mind. What recognize the mind? See, or to make it more simple, body is the field. Within that we have 5 instruments. 5 instruments to register the image. And mind is camera that clicks and is imprinted. And then intellect is the one that analyzes. Okay. But what allows the intellect to function? What? So this is a questioning, and that is whole life you can spend on that. What allows the intellect to function? There is something higher than intellect, that is consciousness. Why conscious? What is the difference between consciousness, mind and intellect? Mind only takes the picture, intellect analyzes. But what is consciousness? Consciousness only watches and witnesses. Consciousness watches the body grow older. Consciousness watches the dream. Consciousness watches all the experiences. Consciousness watches the dreamless sleep. Right? Consciousness watches the mind. Consciousness watches the emotions, like I'm happy, I'm excited, I'm depressed, I'm angry. There is something that registers, because you are not the anger. You are the anger, you cannot see the anger. Okay? To see you, I have to be apart from you. So, that consciousness is a part of watching everything. And what is that consciousness? Can you pinpoint? Look into it. Look into it. This is the inquiry, like not I'm saying, but this scriptures inquiry. Who am I? I'm the consciousness. What is the consciousness? How do I look? What is my size, my shape? It's not there. It's abstract. Okay. Then who watches the consciousness? Right? If there is consciousness, somebody watching. Consciousness watches consciousness. So which is that consciousness? Is supreme consciousness. And supreme consciousness is only thing there is. So supreme consciousness comes into the part, in the house, in this body, it becomes. So that is what I am. So if you look into the consciousness, all the questions will disappear, because question you are asking in the mind and you are staying at the level of mind. You are not going to the level of intellect or consciousness. So this is the inquiry. If you want to look up on YouTube, Ramana Maharshi, his own path was self-inquiry. Who am I? Then so many disciples, he lived a couple of 100 years ago or so. So many disciples. So one called Papaji, he became disciple. In other one is Muji, that disciple and all people follow. They teach you what is the path of self-inquiry. Nobody knew him in India, but British writer and scholar and spiritual seeker called Paul Brunton went to India, and I wrote in the book also. Then he got frustrated with all the spiritual masters in India. They are all phonies, because he was too strict. But that is what I wrote, some of my experiences. It's hard to find true master. So he was going to give up. Before you give up, somebody says, just go in Arunchala hills. And he went there, and Raman Maharshi was sitting. He's not talking, but he said that he could not live because of audience. Look bad. He said all his questions disappear. Transformation took place. And Raman Maharshi is illiterate. He doesn't even talk, very rarely talked. Then he wrote about it, that he experienced something unique, that after searching in Egypt and here and there, found it. So he put it in his books. So that's why Raman Maharshi known overseas, then it became popular in India. This is what it is. So his inquiry was, who am I? Am I that is permanent? So if you sick, that you are identified with the body, I'm not the body. I'm fat, thin, this, that, I'm rich, I'm poor, all this. I'm smart, educated, not educated. Emotionally I feel this, that. Everything keeps on changing. But the reality that doesn't change and observes and doesn't get contaminated, that is what we are. So really they say there is no God. You, who am I? That is God. And in Sanskrit they say Tat Tvam Asi. Thou art that. Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahman. And qualities of Brahman I have written, I think, in several books. Probably in this book. Brahman is supreme consciousness. Brahman is a nirakar, without shape, avyakta, unknowable, without beginning, anadi, ananta. Without beginning, ananta means without boundaries, doesn't walk, but because of power of Brahman, legs walk. Has no eyes, but gives power of the eyes to the sea. So what essence is of the Upanishad say that is the power, supreme consciousness. Because of this everything functions, but it is not that. It is like a catalyst. Because of Brahman everything works. So if you go into it, and that is the meditation, who am I? And go beyond. And this negation, the mantra I did, and in this book, that is what, I'm not this, I'm not this. And go into the essence. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. Shivoham Shivoham Satchidanandoham. So we go to that experience where you feel there is no birth, no death. Because the question of God or not God cannot be resolved by mind, because something beyond mind, how can you resolve it? Okay. So if somebody says, I don't believe in God, so you want to know God? Something that doesn't believe in God, that is God. And something in you believes in God, that is God. Not God that you believe in, but the essence that believes in. Does it make sense? That takes lifetime of practice.
I think I'm getting there, but I think when I put myself there and I try to say, to think about the supreme consciousness and eternity, that's as unsettling to me as...
Because you are thinking.
Oh, okay.
And the thinking is the one that creates Maya. Thinking. So really, experience is transcendental. So you have to slow down the mind, just like waves, like said, three kind of thing, Mala, Avaran and Vikshep, the coverings and distraction and all this, you quiet the mind, and that is the practice of yoga. Quiet down the mind, and just like mind becomes quiet, you can go beyond the mind, what is behind the mind. When the water is quiet, you can see the bottom. So this is experiential. So question of God is not believing. If you believe in it, then there is another logic that would disbelieve it. When you experience it, then doubts are disappeared.
I hope so, because I just want it to make sense.
No, you cannot make sense. You can experience it. Then you don't have to make sense. So this the paradox. More you think, more you get confused.
But then aren't you just trying to talk yourself into that state, like almost almost trying to convince yourself.
You convince yourself means you are hypnotizing yourself. Religions hypnotize you, you hypnotize yourself. So that is, definition is, it is the power with which mind thinks. So how can you know with mind? Okay, just another example. Where is the sky? I describe, oh, that's the shape of this window. That is why, so mind is like a window. With a window you want to see infinite sky, how can you see it? So get the essence. Get the essence is you would never resolve it with no matter how many books you read, how much you think, because you can experience it when there is no mind. Does it make sense to everyone?
I think Muktananda said that you are, remember one thing, that you are God, and you have already assumed that, but you just don't, you just have a misunderstanding of it.
Yes.
You know, so you have a misunderstanding of your reflection, or you're part of that, but you, like Shanti's saying, you can't, it's the mind, it's the like he said, that when you greet a friend that you haven't seen in a while, that's the perfect, reflection of God. Or if you see someone that's beautiful, that's the perfect vision of God. So so you just take all these things and you use your mind instead of your heart, or that understanding.
Okay. So really simplifying it, forget about mind. Ego comes in the way. The veil is ego. What is ego? Is identifying ourselves as mind, as body, as senses. That is ego. So we remove the ego, then we experience God. So yoga, path of yoga is to know thyself. And they have found 4 paths: Gnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. So you can use all of them. And people cannot experience this reality. Supreme consciousness is Advaita Vedanta is too high. Even for me, sometimes I say it will be escapism to believe everything, there is only one consciousness. So that's why they created duality that I have in the books, that Purusha and Prakriti, God and Goddess, Ishwar and Maya. Ishwar, Purusha or God is a consciousness principle which projected nature out of own self. Nature is Prakriti or Maya or Goddess. So God and Goddess, here I have described the creation, in this book, describe the creation. So God and Goddess, and also in the chart, I think in one of the books, God wanted to project the world. God is without beginning, without end. So projected world. How can you project? He projected nature out of own self. That is Prakriti, or nature, or energy. And united with nature. So consciousness and nature united to produce the universe. And the universe, everything in the universe is combination of energy and consciousness. God and Goddess is in here, in here, in here, in here, everywhere. God and Goddess combined together. He created macrocosm and a large scale and microcosm. So behind that is God and Goddess. So one worships the God and Goddess. So in India there are so many worships. Goddess of wealth, Goddess of learning, Goddess of this. So there are 3 major gods, Trinity. Brahma is the creator. It's all this symbolic to understand. Brahma is the creator. So he used energy. And what do you need for creation? Saraswati, knowledge. So Brahma and Saraswati is a union. Then sustaining, Vishnu, who sustains. For sustaining you need wealth. So that is Lakshmi. So Krishna and Radha are representative, or Vishnu and Lakshmi. Okay. Then again things transform, die. So Lord Shiva, I have a statue somewhere, and Parvati or Kali is the goddess of distraction. So entire universe is process of creation, sustenance, dissolution, but God remains untouched. So entire universe is consciousness and energy. Both are indestructible. Yeah, that is dancing Shiva. So consciousness is never destroyed and nature is not destroyed. Nothing is destroyed. Energy is transformed one to another. So everything with a name and form are illusion. Everything that we see is a form and name. Everything is illusion. Why is it illusion? Am I illusion? You are illusion? Look, 100 years before, where were we? Where will be after 100 years? That is not sustainable, is illusion. You know, mountains, after millions of years, they disappear. So this is the concept. So you worship God to heighten your consciousness. But then they came in Hinduism that God with quality, you know, God controls the world, but I want to God, I want somebody I can feel. So they brought the concept of avatara, incarnation of God. That's Vishnu aspect, incarnates into human form, lives ordinary life like humans, but has all the powers and teaches lesson to humanity. That is called avatara. So Krishna, Rama are different avatara. You can call Christ as avatara, or you can call Buddha as avatara. So there are different things. Then other souls, which are human beings that evolve and receive the message from God, they become Messiah. Okay. So you have Brahman, personal God, just like you worship, and then human God, or Messiah, or saints. These are all the channels. And then you have Guru. So Guru, or a live person who is more evolved than you, guide you in this direction for the experience. But ultimate experience you want directly is to question, who am I? And then you go into it deeper and deeper. Then you can see this is illusion, this is illusion, because nothing is real. Mind is not real. What is mind? Mind doesn't exist. It's a thoughts. Thoughts superimpose on one on another, looks like mind. It's just like on the screen. What is movie? Nothing but single images. Continuously fools our eyes. Everything is, we are fooled. And this is why you should see on YouTube holographic universe. See everything. And they are doing many shows now, Michael Jackson and all this. Holographically they project it. So they show that everything is illusion. We are fooled. Everything is illusion. So this is why inquiry into real self, and then like you were talking about universality, and you were talking about animal nature and all this, you see sameness. There is same spark of consciousness in the ant or amoeba and elephant. There is no difference. Names and form are illusion. Space is space in the part or drink or here. That's one. So subtler than space is consciousness, and that is what we are. And that is the illusion we have to remove. So stop working with the mind, relax the mind and experience. That is what it's about. Experience. When you experience, then no logic would change your mind. Again, mind and think for yourself is a tool. But when thinking stops, intuition and experience takes place. Okay, does that make sense?
It does.
Yes, so you work on that, but that's
something to work on, right?
That work on. But one thing you avoid is thinking too much and getting the answer. Because with mind you find answer, same mind will question. Okay, this is why blind following of religion is not good, because you believe that, like say, this is the only savior, this is the only path. Look at these people, they are afraid. They have fear of going outside of their circle. When you experience that, you become fearless. Look, Christ was fearless. You cannot kill me. Buddha was fearless. That's all the masters who got it. Buddha, there is a serial going on. Angulimal, who used to collect fingers from his victims, And he said, you are 100th victim, then I would be complete. And Buddha's presence, with compassion, he was really totally transformed, became disciple. In a Christian stories also, there are so many people, robbers turn into saint because of the power. So this is what it is. So that is experience. So when you experience, you become fearless. You get spark. Moses came from the mountain, he was glowing. So this is what happens. Muhammad got transformed. Christ went through the stage, all the great masters go. So this is the idea. You cannot get through the mind because reality is beyond the mind.